The Age of Anomaly, Spotting Financial Storms in a Sea of Uncertainty. Welcome to B2M Business Insights podcast. This is part 1 of episode 75, the interview with Andrei Polgar. You are probably familiar with the story about placing a frog in cold water and gradually increasing the temperature. The frog doesn't notice a small change in temperature and is boiled alive. Well, this story, like many other familiar tales, is a myth. Frogs are far smarter than we give them credit for, and they would jump out of the water well before it got too hot. Most humans, however, behave like the fictitious frog. Our reactions to gradually unfolding threats are slow or even non-existent. Welcome to episode 75 of B2M Business Insights on Otago Access Radio, on a 5.4 FM and online at oar.org.nz and as a podcast. My name is Simon Fawkes from B2M, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Andrei Polgar from 1 Minute Economics. Andrei will be talking about his new book, The Age of Anomaly, Spotting Financial Storms in a Sea of Uncertainty. Thank you, Andrei. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Simon. Thank you guys for listening. And yeah, I do have to say that never before in my career have I been as concerned about the state of the economy as I am right now. So that's kind of what I try to do through The Age of Anomaly. Do my best to spread the word about these concerns to, well, pretty much anyone who cares to listen.
Thank you. So first of all, tell us a bit about your journey thus far. How did you end up becoming an economist and pursuing this passion?
It has been a labor of love for sure, because of course, as someone who lives in Eastern Europe, I didn't have that many amazing opportunities at my disposal offline. So like many young people, I did my own thing on the internet. I started some businesses that were going well. I did it ever since high school, actually, and I got accepted to university as well. So everything seemed to be going perfectly, except life happened, the perfect storm type situation in life, because on the one hand, my mom got sick. I had to take her to a different country to get proper medical treatment. And needless to say, this took its toll on my net worth, which had all but evaporated. And two, also this happened during the Great Recession, which started in 2007 to 2008. And needless to say, that had quite an effect on my businesses as well. So essentially, I was forced to start from scratch, to rebuild my businesses from scratch. And it wasn't exactly the most pleasant thing in the world. I did it. I started getting back on my feet and was able, fortunately, to approach studying economics at the academic level, going after my bachelor's, my master's, my PhD. I was able to do this from a position of financial comfort. My biggest motivation for writing these books, for teaching people about economics on YouTube, is that I want as few people as possible to go through the things I went through. And I'm going to do whatever it is in my power to make that happen. I've never really cared much about the money when it comes to this dimension, either my YouTube videos or the books I write, because I have plenty of other projects that are far better at, let's say, putting money on the table. But when it comes to the academic dimension of my life, it's kind of like this continuous journey of mine of finding the right balance between projects that are good at putting food on the table and things that are bigger than myself, like my books, like my videos. And it's ultimately what helps me become a well-rounded individual, pretty much.
So it comes down to being purpose-led.
Of course. The number one thing I tell people when they tell me they want to embrace a career on YouTube or become a writer is this: if you're not in it from a place of true passion, then whatever it is you want to do, someone who is actually passionate about it will beat you to it. So there's just no way to go around that. Even with my book, whenever I talk about it, still after being on so many interviews, I still am just as excited about it as I was on day one. Even when writing it, each paragraph was a continuous journey of mine of convincing the reader to read the next one and basically making sure I don't lose my audience and making sure I get the message across. It's just impossible, I think, to do it right if you're not in it with your heart.
And also what's clear is that you're driven by the desire to share knowledge, not to seek fame.
That is correct. Like especially as someone who also ran a lot of businesses, someone who's also an investor, I've become a heavily results-oriented person. I don't care about sounding smart. I don't care about being popular. I want my stuff to work. I want people who never managed to understand anything economics related to come to my channel, to 1 Minute Economics, and say, oh my God, I never realized this was so easy. The same way, I know people, The Age of Anomaly is probably going to be the only book about financial preparedness that people are going to read, people I have access to, so my audience. So I do my best to give them kind of the most amazing from A to Z type guide that I possibly can. So this willingness to share is ultimately what my journey is all about. Like, it's just unbelievable how good these things make me feel and how fulfilling they are when it comes to the non-financial dimension in life. Of course, again, I do have this privilege of not relying on that income to quote unquote pay the bills. So yeah, I am a bit spoiled in that respect. But, at the end of the day, you reap what you sow.
Well, also, you've made the decision to have a balanced career so that part of your time is devoted to activities that earn money, but a good chunk of your time is devoted to sharing knowledge, and it's more about what you can give.
Precisely. Now, I've done enough things in life to know that even when you're in a battle for people's minds, which I am, you're still selling something. You're selling ideas. So, for example, when you'll be publishing this one, it's going to be my big week on when it comes to my book, and it's 400 plus pages long. But I'll be reducing the price, and I'm not kidding with this, to just 99 cents over a 1 week period. The same way during the same week, I got some amazing sponsors on board, and I have a contest through which I encourage people to spread the word about my book, and they can even win a Bitcoin. That's the number one prize, or $100 Amazon gift cards, or domain plus hosting packages. So I'm doing all of these things, and it's easy to follow the money and realize that someone who's in it for the financial benefits is not going to write 400 plus pages and then sell that for 99 cents. The battle I have right now when it comes to this dimension of my career is, again, a battle for people's minds. I am in it to plant seeds in as many minds as possible. I'm in it in the hope that these seeds are going to germinate and turn into something awesome. And I do it for a combination between, of course, altruistic reasons, my desire to help people, but also selfish reasons, because I do feel a certain sense of responsibility by being the economist guy on YouTube. And I don't want to feel guilty for having had certain concerns, but being reluctant to talk about them just because it wasn't the comfortable thing to do.
Well, as we'll discuss later, it's important to first of all be aware of risks, but then have some techniques to deal with them rather than being overwhelmed and sort of struck by fear.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Just like I do on my YouTube channel, in the book, I keep things logical. And I try to explain to the average person that as long as you take some form of meaningful action, words cannot begin to describe how much better positioned you're going to be than the average consumer. It all boils down to, again, I will be discussing this in more detail, having a firm grasp on history, finding common denominators, seeing what makes us tick, then using that to interpret current events, then figuring out what your personal portfolio strategy is going to be, and kind of turning all of that into a coherent whole. It's fortunately not a matter of rocket science. And I've noticed that I am pretty good at making complicated stuff easy to understand. And my promise to people when it comes to my videos, my book, or anything else, is that it's never going to seem that this arrogant economist is talking down upon you from his ivory tower. And instead, you're always going to have this feeling that a good friend is giving you some tips, a friend who just so happens to be good at economics or money stuff in general.
What people sometimes overlook is that to make something complex, simple, and understandable takes a good deal of effort. And from the parts of the book that I've read, I commend you on the clarity of the way you write.
It is a Herculean task for sure. And it's the number one mistake many of my peers make, because economists love hearing themselves talk. They love seeming intelligent. But the problem is that if that comes across in your books, then you're going to lose people. And if you lose people, it's all in vain. Like on my YouTube channel, I even managed to explain complicated stuff in a way that makes everyone understand, whether it's the way the banking system works, fractional reserve banking, whether it's the famous or infamous derivatives that are to a large degree responsible for having caused the previous financial crisis, whether we're talking about statistics type stuff like the standard deviation. I only care about results. The only thing that makes me happy when it comes to my work is not receiving recognition or not, getting rich off my books or whatever. It's just, I derive a great sense of inner peace from knowing that I'm on the right track. And knowing that I'm on the right track is all about realizing that, look, the things I'm doing on YouTube work. The things I'm doing with my books work. There's really nothing more I want when it comes to this particular dimension of my career.
B2M Business Insights. On air, online and on demand. Listen to the full podcast episode now. Episode 75. The Age of Anomaly. Spotting financial storms in a sea of uncertainty. Listen to the full podcast episode. Watch other podcast videos. Search all episodes by keyword. Subscribe to our channel.